part 6 of
Letras de rap mal envejecidas.
A series that needs no introduction at this point, but I'm probably gonna give it a quick little one anyways. It's time once again to talk about some lines that you can't listen to now without thinking, I bet this rapper wishes they never said that now. But hey, you know what else could age poorly? The security of your online accounts if you're not using the sponsor of today's video, NordPass by NordVPN. If you're watching this video, I'm sure you won't be shocked to hear that means you're on the internet. And as you're on it, you probably have multiple different accounts with various websites that you want to keep safe. Identity theft and hackers having access to your private information is a very real threat to anyone online. And NordPass offers you a solution to that by helping you generate and manage different secure passwords for every account you have. All you need to remember is the master password that you sign into NordPass with, and then it can keep track of every single other password that you choose to store in there so that you don't have to remember them all. Because let's face it, the strongest passwords are just random strings of numbers and letters that you're never gonna memorize. It has a bunch of other useful features too. For example, you can check if any email addresses that you use have been involved in any data breaches. And if they have, it tells you how to resolve these data leaks. You can check existing password health, securely store your credit card and personal details so you can shop online easier, and all of this is as secure as it can be, as NordPass is a zero-knowledge password manager. They can't see what's in your encrypted vault, only you can. So, if you want to increase your online security today, go to the link at the top of the description, nordpass.com/CDTV, or use the code CDTV at the checkout to get 70% off and 1 extra month free with a 2-year plan of NordPass. Much love to NordVPN for sponsoring this video with NordPass. So, with all that being said, this is CDTV, and let's get started with these lyrics. As I've said before, I don't think a lyric can age worse than when it's literally being used against a rapper to try and convict them. I'm assuming almost everyone who watches my channel is familiar with the Young Thug case at the moment, but if you're not, here's a quick rundown. Young Thug was arrested in May of this year, being charged in a 56-count RICO indictment. For anyone not familiar with the RICO Act, to put it bluntly, it is some pretty serious shit. RICO is a federal law that was created in 1970 to combat organized crime, and at the time was used to prosecute the mob, because basically RICO allows for an entire criminal organization to be prosecuted, rather than individual members of that organization being prosecuted in individual cases, with serious sentences for the people involved. So in this case, the YSL crew headed by Young Thug is being slapped with charges as a whole, as a criminal organization affiliated with the Bloods gang. If you look at the indictment document, Thug specifically is being charged with conspiracy to violate the RICO Act and participation in criminal street gang activity. Other recognizable names in the 56-count indictment are Gunna, Yak Gotti, Duke, and Unfunk, I believe is how you say that one. This, as I'm sure you might have guessed, is where the lyrics come in. For 9 years, prosecutors have been monitoring music and social media posts from members of YSL to gather evidence of the group being a criminal organization. Looking through the 88-page document is pretty insane. For example, they have this 2014 Instagram post from Young Thug with the comment, "Defendant Jeffrey Williams," Young Thug's real name, an associate of YSL, did pose for a photo released on social media wearing red clothing and flashing a YSL gang hand sign, an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. The lyric I included before this segment is also being used as evidence of gang participation, but some of the other ones in there are wild. Never did I think I would see a court document that states, "Defendant Jeffrey Williams, an associate of YSL, appeared in a video released on social media titled Ooh, where defendant states, 'Red just like Elmo, but I never fucking giggle.' An overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy." Now, when there's a RICO case, as far as I'm aware, it's a fairly good indication that this isn't something to be taken lightly, but the use of rap lyrics as evidence in legal cases is always sketchy to me. Rap lyrics aren't exactly concrete, they're often exaggerated or completely fabricated and not references to reality at all. Sometimes they absolutely can be references to reality, but how do you make that distinction? Surely there could also be confirmation bias that goes into that. Like, if you're a prosecutor, you want these lyrics to be referencing specific crimes, therefore they must be. And then what if you have a jury that has a certain bias against rap music and considers it to be a violent genre? It just doesn't seem concrete. Again, there's probably some evidence outside of lyrics that the prosecutors have against Young Thug, but the lyrics being included in this legal case at all isn't a great precedent to set. Only time will tell how all of this is going to end up.
Gang. They don't know about them nights on the block, all tempos up, used to fight for the Glock. And no big crack the C first block, HSM 798, want us the gangway. Slide through when we slam it, don't care about no cameras, you bitch niggas know how my gang play.
While it's a topic of discussion, we might as well just keep the RICO case stories going. And after Fredo and his crew got hit with the RICO charge, I guess the feds did know about their nights on the block. Shout out to Mickey D for bringing this case to my attention and for giving me that free joke to use. At the time that this case happened in 2020, it was labelled as the largest crew takedown in rap history, with 31 suspected members being charged in the federal indictment as part of the Boston-based NOB gang. In particular, Fredo himself was charged with RICO conspiracy, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, and possession with intent to distribute controlled substances. And as this one was a case where the charges were brought forward a couple years back, we actually have a clearer picture of how this one is going to be ending up, compared to the YSL case, which is at an earlier stage of the process. In June of this year, Fredo pled guilty to all 3 of his charges, along with 9 other NOB members pleading guilty to RICO charges, with sentencing scheduled to take place in September and November of this year. In this particular case, I couldn't actually find if lyrics were used as evidence of gang activity, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were, and it's impossible to hear these lyrics now and not think of the RICO conviction of Fredo.
Backing out Toyota like I'm in the league, and it ain't a mosh pit if ain't no injuries.
This one is a heavy one to include, but I think it's the definition of a lyric that aged horribly, because as we all know by now, there was a lot more than injuries at Travis Scott's 2021 Astroworld Festival. Every single time you hear this lyric on this song now, it just sticks out like a sore thumb. In total, 25 people were hospitalized due to injuries that they suffered at the event, and 10 people passed away due to asphyxia from the crowd crush. It was an absolutely tragic event, and I'd be interested to see if when Travis Scott is performing live again, when he does this song, if he's still gonna say this line regardless of what happened.
The next day.
It's hard to say who was truly responsible for the tragedy at this event, as I believe investigations are still underway. But everyone from Travis Scott to the promoters Live Nation to the security contractor for the show to the managers of the venue itself could be considered as legally liable for the deaths, depending on where the investigations go. Andy Kush, or Andy Kush, wrote a great article for Pitchfork breaking down how any of these people or groups of people could be considered as liable for what happened, so I'll leave that link down in the description below so you guys can go and give it a read. One thing it makes clear is that it's definitely more complicated than saying one person or one group of people is responsible for what happened. I think it was failures from multiple different aspects that caused an event like this. But again, we just have to wait and see how it plays out. So that is our first 3 poorly aged rap lyrics for this video, but before we get into the 4th and final one, you know what time it is. It's speed round time.
Having visions of fucking an A-list singer, a Kardashian or a Jenner. But yeah, he's got Kim, Tiger swooped up Kylie, so it's one left, watch me go get her.
0 for 3 now, Gerald. Ye and Kim, no more. Tyga and Kylie, goodbye, thankfully. Young Gerald and Kendall, never happened as far as we know. Every part of this lyric aged poorly.
Soon I'll be the king like Prince Charles.
Tiny Tempa clearly underestimated how long royals can live for, because he said this line 13 years ago, and still the Queen and Prince Charles would need to pay God a visit for Charles's child to become king.
My man has been second in line for 40 years.
Soon was not the right word to use here.
Better watch out for Rico.
As we established earlier, Gunna was also named in the 56 count YSL indictment. Watch out for Rico indeed.
Please believe me, I see Riri, I'ma eat it like panini.
Yeah, I don't think Rocky would appreciate you doing that now, my man. So that's the end of our quick little speed round today, and with that being over, let's get into the fourth and final lyric for today.
The only way I leave, I love to watch them squirm. I love when bitches bleed. If she's sucking on the barrel, you can't hear her scream.
This episode has just been a real bundle of laughs, hasn't it? Now, I'm someone who only got super into the music of Brockhampton in the past couple of years or so, but even then, I was still somewhat familiar with the Ameer Vann situation before then. If you happen to not be familiar with the situation, Ameer used to be a member of Brockhampton, but he isn't anymore, and as this series always goes, it has something to do or relates in some way to these lyrics right here. To get right into it, in May of 2018, Ameer was accused of sexual misconduct and abuse, with specific allegations of being emotionally manipulative and mentally abusive, and then after that, accusations of sex with a minor. Ameer responded to these claims, saying himself that, "I've been in relationships where I've fucked up and disrespected my partners. I've cheated and been dismissive to my exes." In response to the claims of emotional and sexual abuse, although my behaviour has been selfish, childish and unkind, I have never criminally harmed anyone or disrespected their boundaries. I have never had relations with a minor or violated anyone's consent. Unfortunately, with it being difficult to prove that all these things did happen, plus it being difficult for Ameer to prove that all these things didn't happen, to people that aren't, involved in the situation, such as myself or all the fans that were just kind of looking in on this situation, it's completely a he said, she said type of deal, where I think it's impossible to make any definitive statements of guilt or innocence. This of course put everyone in the group in a tough situation, as this was not only a member and a close friend of theirs, but this was also the face of the Saturation trilogy, with him being the sole person on the cover for every single one. Their upcoming album at the time, Puppy, was shelved and then cancelled. Ameer was kicked out of the group, and ever since then they've been making music of their own. It is hard to say what Ameer definitely did or definitely didn't do, but what you can say is that you certainly notice these lyrics every time you hear them now. So with that being said, that is going to be all for today's video, and thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, of course, to go to my link, nordpass.com/CDTV, or use the code CDTV at the checkout for 70% off and an extra month free with that 2-year plan. If you can think of any lyrics that would be good for this series, then of course drop them down in the comments below, and ideally I'm hoping to look for some that are a bit lighter and focus on lighter topics, because this whole episode was all about fairly serious shit. It would be nice to have some more that are just like part 1, where it's, just funny, silly stuff. You can click right here to check out the controversial rap lyrics video that I uploaded recently, and much love to all my Patreon supporters for supporting me. With a special shout out to my biggest supporters, and those are Agir, Big Daddy Foe, Griffin Upchurch, I Am Regent, Ronan Maverick, and Ryan Shadow 507.